Okay, welcome everybody. So this is going to be a Conversations in Careers interview with Seb York today, who works for CatSci. So to give you a little bit of context about why we do these interviews, the main aim is to be able to show and highlight just the breadth of opportunities within the sector and just how different some career journeys can be. So yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting project and I'm looking forward to the discussion today. So to kick us off, Seb, do you think you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey towards your position at CatSci?
Of course, and thank you very much for having me today. It's a great opportunity for me to share a little bit about myself and my journey towards the career at CatSci. So I'm a talent lead at CatSci. What it means, I'm responsible for our recruitment and talent acquisition strategy and all activities here in attracting the best people to work for us, as well as I'm an equality, diversity and inclusion lead for the company. So I'm looking after the entire framework and all our activities to ensure that we are the most inclusive employer as we can be, and again, to attract the best people to come and join us, regardless of their background. So my role, in the end of the day, sits within our HR function, and there will be loads of other things that, I'm looking after on a day-to-day basis, but that kind of, those are core activities and I suppose my biggest passions as well, which is so amazing that you actually can do the job that is your passion, then you always put 110% into it and you want to put more and more, and that's how I see it. But my journey to CatSci was really unexpected. I've been with the company for just under a year. 2 days before Christmas last year, I've been told that my former role was at the risk of redundancy. Unfortunately, due to COVID, loads of things were changing. I was one of those unlucky people who was touched by it. And obviously for that reason, started looking for new opportunities. And to be honest with you, with a hindsight, I think that my redundancy, as much as I loved my previous employer and my colleagues there, was probably one of the best things that happened in my career, as that actually gave me a push to look for something different. That gave me an opportunity to come across CatSci, to join the company and be able to bring all my ideas to the table and actually make them happen, to change something, to introduce something new, and obviously to work with fantastic people.
Amazing. So you mentioned that it was kind of, you were, I guess not by choice, thrown into this decision to kind of look for a new role. Is your current position something that you always had as an end goal in mind? Is kind of working within recruitment and championing equality and diversity always something that you wanted to do?
To be honest with you, that's a very good question. I think since starting working in HR, I knew that was a very cliche, but that was my calling. I certainly love everything to do with people, with equality, diversity, with recruitment, obviously attracting the best people, because that's where it all starts. It starts with recruitment. And as I said, where I am is my passion. But was it always that, the case that I knew I would be doing that, as a profession for all my life, or, going forward for the next 10 to 20 years? I think at some point I've realized that. I definitely had a flair to be involved in speaking to people, in assessing who's the best fit for the organization. So yes, I think, it was a journey that in the end of the day meant to be here. But with everything, we can always improve, we can always do something new, we can learn something new, and that's how I see my career going forward. There are some elements like equality, diversity, inclusion that are a huge part of who I am and what I want to do. I want to always bring change where possible. I want to show people that more inclusive environments are better. Collaborating with everyone is fantastic. So that's something that is something that I always will be doing and always will be interested in doing. But whether it will be in exactly same capacity in 10 years' time, I don't know yet, but I'm definitely open to what future holds.
Amazing. So have you always worked within the life sciences industry?
No, so as I said, joining CatSci under a year ago, that was the industry. I've spent working as a HR professional for the past decade. But I've worked in different industries, none of which was life sciences. I've started actually in housing and employability at the very early point in my career in HR. Then I transitioned more into social care environment, and my last role before joining CatSci was within retail and hospitality sector.
Wow. So do you think that you came across any barriers to transitioning into a role within the life sciences? Did you face any challenges there? Or did you was it quite a smooth transition?
I think there always will be challenges in the new role. And there always will be challenges when you come to a different sector, as you learn a lot about the sector. You learn a lot about people working in the sector, how they operate. I'm very much interested in psychology. So actually understanding what makes people tick or how people react to different situations is something that I always try to study, assess, and learn a little bit more. So there always will be that initial period when you have to stop, look at everything, and do a good assessment to understand what you should be doing next. But at the very same time, with CatSci, I was extremely lucky working with fantastic people who spent loads of time initially with me to go not only through how people operate and what challenges I might face, but also through requirements for each role, through educational backgrounds, everything to do with people and what I could be potentially coming across. And that was great. So I very often heard the view that if you change the industry, you can't be successful because you are new to the industry. So how possibly can you be successful? However, from my experience working across many different sectors, roles in HR, talent acquisition, recruitment marketing, as I said at the start, it's all about people. And it's as long as you want to work with people, you understand people, and you are willing to listen, then there's not that many obstacles. So for me, it was rather a settling in period rather than any big problems that I had to overcome to start with.
Cool. So I'm going to take it a little bit back to when you were studying. So I'm keen to kind of learn a little bit about what you did study. Did you go to university? And then also interested to learn about how you've applied what you maybe studied to what you're doing now. And do you think it was relevant? Do you think it was useful? So yeah. Okay,
so again, my journey in education probably wasn't as straightforward either, and certainly not something that you would expect. So back 20 few years ago, I finished my A-levels, and that's where at that point I did not continue my education whatsoever. I jumped into working in the industry. I worked in the hospitality sector where I was managing different businesses eventually. And a decade ago, so in 2011, I've made the decision that I really wanted to leave the front line of a hospitality industry, and I was looking what to do next. And I completed then my higher certificate, so level 4 in managing organizational equality and diversity. After which I started my first role working as an equality advisor for independent housing cooperative in Manchester. And kind of from that point onward, I've done loads of different courses, attended different webinars, etc. So I'm a qualified trainer, at the moment. I've done different payroll management courses, and at some point in my career, very often happens to all of us in HR, you deal with payroll in some sort of capacity. So I've done many different things that helped me a lot to understand different areas of the entire profession. And at some point, I came to a realization that despite I was very capable, at least in my mind, and able to do my job because I was qualified by experience, I wanted to return to full-time education, which I've done alongside my job. And I've completed level 5 diploma in business management with London School of International Business, which kind of at that point gave me a good kick. And I joined Arden University, where I finished my degree in human resource management. During the lockdown last year, as obviously very turbulent time, there was a point that I was on fellow. So I've decided to use my time wisely, and I studied psychology in one of the obviously online environment, but one of the leading Australian universities, which was a great addition to a degree. And I currently, as you can see the pattern, I do like learning. I've continued with Arden University. I'm currently completing my master's in human resource management, which kind of, I think, for me is a great addition to everything what I've done. You can always learn something new, and I really do enjoy doing that. And hopefully in 6 months' time, I will be able to say that I've completed that as well.
Wow, that is amazing. And I think that's a really nice demonstration that career paths don't have to be linear, and you can continue doing qualifications and continue learning at any stage in your career. I think something as well that is really attractive to employers is this kind of appetite for growth with employees. And how much would you agree with that? Do you think that is a really important kind of quality to have when looking for a role? Is that something that you would put higher up on a CV or in a covering letter, this like appetite for growth, as opposed to what you've achieved at an educational level or qualification?
Certainly. I think, as you said, not every career journey or education journey will be the same. So we will approach it from a different angle. As you can see in my example, I wasn't in a HR profession from the start. It was transition for me, thinking I really need to do something different with my life. I didn't feel what I was doing at the time was a career that I wanted to carry on. And I think if you are really hungry for growth, for upskilling, then yes, that should be something that you mention on your CV or in your covering letter, that it's a great thing to have. However, if you've done loads of things in the past, put emphasis on that, because obviously no one can take away your education and your skills from you. It always will be useful, whatever you've learned, and when it is. I think what I'm trying to say here, I'll make the point that we all will be different, and I don't think that there is a better or worse way of getting to where you want to be. But if you find your way, be proud and be loud about this and share that with people. And I think that that's very important for people who are looking to start their careers, who are at the early stage and they are not entirely sure, am I doing it right? My answer to it would be, you certainly are. If your heart is in the right place at this moment in time, whatever you are doing is the right thing to do. If in 10 years' time you change your view, or you want to change your career, or you want to return to education, you want to upskill yourself in one or another way, go for it. It's life. It's never so straightforward. Unfortunately, we can't figure out today what we are going to be doing in 30 years' time. So don't be afraid of taking risks, and don't be afraid of changing your approach if the initial way of thinking was not relevant anymore.
Thanks, Seb. I think that's some really great advice. I have to ask you as well, how did you find the time to do all of these things whilst maintaining a full-time job and then also having good mental health? How did you maintain that work-life balance when you were taking on these new courses and things like that?
It's been tough. It is tough. I won't say it's not. And I think for a long period of time, there was probably a little fear in my life whether working full-time and at the same time returning to something that is considered full-time education was the right choice. And probably that was the main reason why I delayed my return return to university for quite a while. But in the end of the day, I'm so glad I've done it. I think it's all about looking at what you want to achieve. If that's your goal, and my goal was to actually complete a university education at the same time as working, and I just try to do everything possible to do it. In terms of mental health, there's always support circle is so important. And sometimes it's just speaking to your family, to your friends, explaining, you know what, for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I won't be talking much to you. I won't be seeing you for a dinner, or we can't go shopping together because I really want to focus on my studying, and just being, having that chance of explaining that to people, not being afraid that you might offend someone, or are you a great friend if you don't see someone for a month, because in the end of the day, with all that, it's not a permanent state. Eventually you are going to finish what you were doing, and then you can go back to other things. So yeah, I think it was challenging. It is challenging, as I said, but to me, it gives me joy. I'm not doing because someone made me to do it. I do it because I really wanted to do it myself, and that kind of is the igniter for me to actually carry on doing what I'm doing.
Amazing. So I'm going to delve into the kind of like diversity and inclusion part of your role at CatSci. And is that something that they advertised that they were looking for, or is this something that you kind of shaped about your role and that you've really added to the company?
Well, we certainly weren't advertising that that would have been the part of the role. I think that came quite naturally to us when I started working in CatSci. As a company, CatSci had a very good idea who they needed and what needed to be done. That's why my role was created. But that was when you start something new, you've got a clear direction for 2 or 3 things, but then everything else come together at the later stage, and that's partly how it was with my role. To me, equality, diversity, and inclusion is, again, something that is connected to people, that is connected to recruitment, that is connected to your talent management. And for me, that was a natural thing to follow up on. If we are hiring the best of the best, you need to ensure that everyone gets a chance. And it's very easy to say that employers are equal opportunity employers, they will support you all the way, which is true, but unless you actually go in out there to speak to people and show them how you're trying to improve something, which there was never a problem in CatSci with equality, diversity, or inclusion. It's just companies growing, there's loads of other elements that you are talking about, as you know yourself, the whole space in equality, diversity changes every day, and there's loads of different things as well for people to learn and to understand. It's all about getting to know each other, getting to know different cultures, understanding what other people might mean. So it is a very important aspect that we always will be learning, and there is never going to be a stop to it. And that kind of naturally just got started to be a very important part of my role, which, as I said, is my passion anyway. So that just 2 things work together very, very well.
So for somebody that maybe doesn't know too much about diversity and inclusion, how would you kind of summarize the importance of working within a diverse company?
Well, there's several, different publications that you will probably find online saying, diverse teams, if you manage them properly, are bringing more return on investment. They're better, hungry for success. They can translate your business goals into reality, which is all very, very true. But this can be Googled by anyone, and that doesn't have much context to it. What is important to me is that when you're creating a truly inclusive environment, when everyone not only feels that they're allowed to be there, but they're actually being listened to, you start suddenly creating a family feel in the business. And it doesn't matter what is the size of the business, whether it's 2 people, 100, or 5,000. Absolutely doesn't matter. It matters how collaboratively and collectively the company and every single employee is approaching that one. And once you've created the family feel, then you've got higher level of trust. Therefore, people are more motivated. People are more likely to talk about the problems, struggles as well, which is so important when it comes to mental health. So all those little things that we're not really thinking straight away when you're seeing equality, diversity are the most important. Is those little chats about how you feel today, and person being able or feeling that they can actually be honest and talk about this. So suddenly, you will see that equality, diversity, and inclusion is not just about having the right gender balance, or it's not just about ensuring that it's not one race in the company, that you actually got diversity across different groups of people, and making sure that everyone who is underrepresented in a society or in your company get a chance to join it. Is only one part of it. The true and real inclusion, when every single person, regardless whether they are underrepresented or not, feel that they've got a voice and they've got a support network in the company. And that's why we will always have to work hard to be in that position, because those things can change day after day. So we always need to focus on that to ensure that everyone feels that they are valued.
Amazing. So throughout your career, do you think you can maybe give me one or a couple of experiences that stand out to you that you feel grateful for having experienced, or perhaps maybe a figure, somebody within your career, a colleague, or an employer that you've met that you feel grateful for meeting and learning something from?
Someone grateful for meeting. That's a good question. That's a good question. I think what I'm really grateful in my career is going back probably to 2013, 2014, I've joined the company called the Growth Company based in Manchester, which is one of the huge employability and recruitment businesses supporting different projects in getting people back to work, providing financial advice, providing educational advice, running different courses, pretty much improving employability across the Northwest. The reason I'm really grateful for working for them and with people on my team was that really sparked my passion for equality and diversity even more. And my boss, Julie, who I worked with at the time, was really one of those leaders that you look at and you understand why it is so important that we are doing what we are doing. And that probably shaped my understanding of the equality diversity. I worked between different projects. And at one project that I worked, I was on, if you think about equal diversity and protected characteristics, probably on most of them, I was the one who was the minority. And at the start, I started questioning that. How was that possible? That I was a minority, and was I comfortable with that? And it's only when you actually thought about this for a second, you realized how ridiculous that question was. Because every day I come across people and I try to help people who are underrepresented in a society, who are minorities, and they have no choice. Absolutely, they have very often no choice. You are a minority group, and that's the fact. And just because there was one particular project that I worked on, that was just a coincidence that I was a minority there. But I had to, because actually, thinking about this, I was always in a privileged group of people who never, I always was a majority, a white man, especially in recruitment at the time. So I had to ask myself a question: was it the right thing? And then realize, yes, it was. Of course, it was the right thing. There was nothing wrong with what I was doing or people I worked with, but because I was from a privileged group of people, I kind of didn't realize it, that, as I said, coincidence, but normally I didn't have those problems. But there's so many people out there who always will be in minority, in certain positions, certain companies, certain groups. And as I said, they have no choice of that. But that kind of realization and that experience explained to me very quickly that at some point, each of us will be in a minority group somewhere, and it's all about people that you are working with, that they're actually making you comfortable to work with them, regardless of how diverse teams are.
Amazing. So just to finish off, you've given some really great advice so far and some amazing insights. Do you think you can give me kind of one last thing that you would give advice to yourself if you or an early career seeker? What kind of advice would you give to somebody starting out their journey?
I think not to repeat myself too much, because I think the very important element is to remember that your career might change its direction. You might want to do something different, so don't be afraid of that. But obviously, we talked about this. The second, probably most important thing I would tell people is that if you feel that something is not right, it probably isn't, and do something about it. We don't live anymore in times when we can change things, we can make our lives better. So if something is not working out for you, it's fine. It's part of life, part of this great experience and journey that we have. So just do something about this. Whether it's a different direction, whether it's a different team, different employer that you want to work for. You don't have to quit your job. If that's not what I'm saying. If you're unhappy with something, but see, is there something else that you would like to do? Try to resolve any problems and any doubts you have. And if you act on it, then there's always a solution. And when you find the solution, it's not about if, but when you find the solution, it will make you feel better and you will feel rewarded for that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Seb. I've thoroughly enjoyed having this conversation with you and learning a little bit more about your career journey. And I hope that those catching up with the session on demand enjoy it too. I'm sure they will. And also just to say a huge thank you to CatSci, who are sponsoring the conference again next year. We're super grateful. So yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me today. And obviously regarding the conference, I think that what you are doing is so important. And myself and CatSci, we are extremely proud that we can be a little part of your enormous success with ongoing activities in terms of life science and careers.
Thanks, Seb. That means a lot.